everybody, and welcome to The View from the Top. It's been an amazing week. We've got some real breaking news that we talked about. In fact, we talked about it yesterday on a special episode of the show. We'll get back to that today. And we've got the most amazing guests lined up today. So we've got a fabulous show. It's so great to have you all here. Now, I think you all know how it works on The View from the Top. Is if you're out there, and I know a lot of you are, please join the conversation, write in the comments box, let us know who you are, where you are, what you want to discuss. As we get onto our special subject today, please do feel free to ask questions of our special guests. We've got so much coming up today that I'm really going to get into this pretty quickly now, because there's just so much to be talking about. As I said, we've got people from all over the world coming in on this show. It's just so great to see you. That says LinkedIn user, hello from Boston, back from jury duty. I'm guessing that might be Pat Jurgens. It's just not coming up on screen here. But it's great to see you all. So anyway, let me just tell you about the show today. We've got a fabulous show. I'm so excited. In our green room, we've got Christina Liciaga and Cameron Senior from HSBC, and they're in charge of, well, amongst other things, they're very senior people at HSBC, but they're in charge of the annual Expat Explorer survey that goes out, and that's been going out. This is actually the 14th year of this survey, and over 20,000 people took part in the survey. And in our world, we always look out for our assignees, our expats, but probably not often enough do we try and look at it from their end of the telescope. Not what do we think about our assignees, but what do our assignees think about their own experience. And this is a formidable survey that HSBC do every year, and great kudos to them for doing it. And we're going to be talking about some of the findings, especially in a pretty difficult year, let's face it, that we've all had with the pandemic. What are the findings? How are expats feeling? So we're really going to be getting into that at some point very shortly. So let me just tell you, bring it up here. Here are our guests today. Now, I've got a question for you. Here are our guests. We've got Cameron Senior, we've got Christina, I'm there. Actually, I say we've got Pat. Sadly, we haven't got Pat, because Pat was meant to be on jury service. And we've got Jeremy as a really able stand-in his place. And we've got Julia Onslow-Cole. So anyway, we always like to have a fun fact. And my fun fact for the day is this. Which of my guests today used to be a professional rugby player? And which of my guests today used to be a beauty queen? So I'll leave that to you. Put your answers in the comments box, and all will be revealed later on. So that's the question for the day. So exciting stuff. We've got so much going on in the show today. And we've got good stuff coming up in the next few weeks as well. Next week, the 27th of October, Benivo Bites is back, and we're going to be talking about lump sum, the next generation. Fabulous show. It's such a topical subject at the moment, and we're going to be talking about that. And then the week after that, which, by gosh, it's already November, we've got a fabulous panel. We're going to be talking about how flexible is mobility going to be next year and beyond. And look at this panel. We've got Jack Jampel from Stryker, Mark Bicocci from Hilton, Tania Marantini from Twilio, and Kristin Dardini from Mediacom. What an amazing panel. What an amazing panel. But of course, we've got breaking news, haven't we? We all know the big news. We discussed it yesterday, and I'd be interested in all your views on it, okay? And of course, the news was that PwC have decided that they are selling their global mobility practice to a private equity house for $2.2 billion, okay? So that's just massive news, and we want to get into that. But here we're getting comments coming in as to who they think was the rugby player and who they think was the beauty queen. We'll come back to that in a moment. But let's just share our breaking news, because although we've talked about PwC, it's not just about PwC. We've got loads of breaking news. So let me just share our breaking news. So some really, really exciting news there. I mean, just some of the things, obviously a load of people out at ERC today. Hopefully many of you will catch the show on Catch Up today, and we wish everybody at ERC a really, really great event. Good to see in-person events coming back. And we've also got, I mean, as I mentioned before, the Top 100 is now open. Please do go onto the Benevo website, top100.benevo.com, and make your nominations today. Let's just talk about this thing we've heard. I mean, I talked about it yesterday. PwC selling their mobility division for 2.2 billion. I talked about it yesterday. We've had about 7,000 or 8,000 views of that video, quite incredible feedback. But also I've had a lot of private messages come through. And I think there's some interesting things that are coming out that I just wanted to update people on. I actually posted on LinkedIn, I said, do you think the other big four are going to follow suit at some point within the next 5 years? And I gave people the idea of, could it be 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, or will it not happen? And what people said was 56% yes, the rest of the big four will follow at some point in the next 5 years, and different people had different views on when. 44% said no. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb and actually say, this is really exciting what PwC are doing. We talked yesterday about some of the opportunities and threats are out there. But I think there's something much, much bigger. I think what we've seen with PwC is a game changer. And I think the others will follow suit. And why is it a game changer? Let me put it like this. What PwC are selling, as I understand it, is they're selling the tax and immigration. They're not selling the HR consulting. They're not selling the reward. In other words, they're basically selling, if you like, the bread and butter, the compliance. And compliance, I would argue, has been semi-automated over the years. And I think, all the big four probably could do more with tech. And I think what we're going to see is, and I think you can see this from the PwC press release that came out, is a real focus on digitizing tax and immigration. So I think that we're going to see a really, really new PwC, or whatever it will be called, it's going to have a new name, and it's going to be a real threat to the market in terms of digitizing the experience and making it more efficient and more effective and more modern. There was a very good comment that came on LinkedIn, and I'm going to put it up on screen here. There's a guy called Nick Bacon, great guy, who used to be a partner. I think he's retired now, but he was a partner at EY, and before that he was a partner at KPMG. And he said this on LinkedIn, and I fully agree with him. He said, expect two things. One, a tie-up with a major tech firm to be the next step for ex-PwC global mobility. And two, the other big four will follow. The last one just might be the biggest loser. So really, really fascinating, and I thought insightful comment from Nick Bacon. So I think we're going to see mobility change quite dramatically as a result of this deal. And I think that we're all in for a very, very exciting time as this changes, and all credit to PwC for taking this lead. I'm desperately trying to get somebody from PwC to come on the show. Hopefully we can have some news on that shortly, and we'll have an edition when maybe we have somebody senior from PwC come and talk on the show and share their vision. So really, really exciting stuff coming up. What I want to do now is let's get into the show proper, and I'm delighted to say that back with us again this week, we have Julia Onslow-Cole. So let's bring Julia Onslow-Cole on stage. So you know how it works. Please hit the like button, hit the heart button, hit the applause, give it up. And here she comes, Julia Onslow-Cole. Julia.
Hi, Brian. Hi.
Where are you? You're back home in Winchester today?
I am, and I just want to say thank you very much to Sarah and Jessica for thinking I could ever possibly be a beauty queen, and it's certainly not me, but that's very kind that you think it might be possible.
So it's not you?
Definitely not.
So, no, okay. And I have to say, I'm going to own up and say I was neither a beauty queen nor a rugby player. So And I guess you were never a rugby player, or were you, Julia?
No.
Okay. So keep your guesses coming, everybody. Okay, we still need to find out who used to be the rugby player and who used to be the beauty queen. So anyway, so Julia, what are you going to be talking to us about today?
Yes, I'm just going to be talking about UK immigration updates today. And I just wanted to say a really big shout out to Gemma Hislop and to Siobhan Owers from Fragomen in the UK for their help on this insight. But the first thing to say is that there are still people who could apply under the EU settlement scheme. And the first sort of top tip I want to say is that it really is important that if you come across anyone in that space who was here before the end of last year, who is eligible to apply, they really should apply as soon as possible. We had thought that the Home Office would be very strict after the cutoff, which was the 30th of June. But in fact, they're allowing people to apply. And as I said before, we've seen reasons such as the applicant hasn't got around to it. So, it really is important to, make these applications. The second thing I wanted to say is that there are some reforms on the way. Just before this, Benevo, I attended a Home Office stakeholder group, and the Home Office are very excited about new visas that they've got in the pipeline. They've got a new visa that a number of different visas that they're looking at, a kind of new intercompany transfer visa and a new visa to help startups in the UK. And that's all going to come into force next year, which is really exciting. And one of the things that we at Fragomen have been asking the Home Office is saying, could you try and allow switching? And unfortunately, the Home Office is quite reluctant to let people switch from visitor into some of these new categories. But I think, having the first-hand experience of all the difficulty of traveling in pandemic times, it would be really good if they did allow that. When I spoke to the Home Office, literally within the last half an hour, they said that the applications for work and study were really at very high levels, not very many EU citizens or EEA citizens, but they've seen a large increase in sponsor licenses, which is no surprise because those sponsor licenses are for companies who needed a sponsor license for the first time, companies that would have actually employed EU citizens. The other thing that they're saying is that the vacancies, the job market's really bouncing back and vacancies are at pre-pandemic levels. And just a quick reminder on the new scheme replaces the Tier 2 General and ICT, and the Tier 2 General's been replaced with the Skilled Worker Visa. And really, most people now go for that Skilled Worker Visa because it goes towards a settlement, and few people are making the ICT. The only reason to make the ICT is if you can't prove English language and you're having to rely on base salary and allowances to get you to the salary levels. So just the final note that Gemma and Siobhan worked very hard on an amazing report that they did for the APPG, which is the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Migration, looking at saying, what do employers think of the new immigration system? And it really was a tale of two halves. Those who already use the system thought it was actually great, but those who haven't used it before find it very expensive. So a family with 2 children might pay as much as 18,000 in immigration government fees. And they also found the whole laborious process of going through a sponsor license application, which they need to do to sponsor people, quite tough. So that's quite interesting. So the last point is you must budget very hard if you're using the UK system because it is expensive.
Okay, Julia, fascinating update as ever. So really appreciate that. Of course, Julia, you used to be at PwC, but I won't ask for your comments on anything, but we will be interesting to see how this one plays out. Our next guest, of course, is we normally have Pat Jurgens here, but Pat is on jury duty, or he was. I think I've got a picture of him on jury duty. There he is. Or actually, though, here's the other one I had. When you're in jury duty, but everyone else has to work. But I think you're in the audience, actually, Pat. Anyway, so let's say goodbye to Julia. And please, everybody, can you do it in the normal way? Get the hearts out there, get the applause, get the love button out there, and let's give it up for as a big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole. And as we bring on, we haven't got Expat Pat, but we've got an equally good alternative. We have, although it doesn't sound quite as flowing, we have Expat Jeremy. If anybody can think of a rhyme with Jeremy, then we'll have to do that. We'll work on that one. But anyway, let's bring on Jeremy to give us our tax update today. Jeremy, good to see you. How are you?
Hi, Brian.
Where are you today?
I'm in lovely Western Massachusetts. We are getting ready for another baseball game tonight. So go Red Sox. Everyone's excited for fall baseball.
Cool. And have you worked for any of the big four in your time?
I spent 7 years at PwC as well, so I've got some personal feelers out there to see. I'll keep their confidence and not relay anything too back, but I think there's a lot of excitement, and I think Peter Clark will make a great CEO. So it's nice that they have that continuity there.
Yeah, I mean, certainly what I'm seeing on LinkedIn is a lot of excitement from the PwC partners who are moving across. They all seem to be using the phrase game changer. And I think clearly there's something really exciting and big lined up there. And I think PwC or new PwC with private equity behind them and restrained out of audit out of an audit issue, no audit problems behind them, maybe some cash in the pot as well for acquisitions. I think we're going to see something very, very exciting happening over the next few years. And as I said in my intro, I'd be very surprised if at least one of the big four doesn't follow them down the route. And this might be an absolute game changer for our industry. Big caveat, though, of course, which is the deal's not signed. And as we saw with Carter Server, these things can sometimes fall apart too. But, let's hope this one all goes through and everybody gets their wishes. All very, very exciting. Anyway, so Jeremy, you're going to be talking to us a bit about tax today. So where in the world are we going with you?
We're going to start off in lovely Ireland. So they just announced their 2022 budget, and there's a couple of interesting or notable developments. The first is they finally caved and agreed to the 15% corporate minimum tax initiative that was started by the OECD. So they were kind of one of the last people that were digging in their heels and but they finally agreed under the premise that it won't be raised in a future date. So they said, fine, 15%, but we're not going any higher. And we also want to have some carve outs for small businesses. So that's a notable development just because there's so many multinational companies, Facebook, Apple, Google, that have such large operations and funnel so much profit because Ireland was somewhat of a tax haven. They didn't like that moniker necessarily because it was 12.5%, but that's just interesting that now every member of the OECD has agreed to the new corporate minimum tax.
Okay.
And the other note of the budget, which is interesting, I think it's also going to be kind of a harbinger for other budgets that get released towards the end of this year, is new deductions for remote working. So recognizing that people are spending more money on electricity, heat, internet, they're not commuting. So having a commuting deduction doesn't really help you if you're not commuting anymore. So let's shift those deductions to what they're spending at home to be remote working.
Okay, so some pretty exciting updates.
Mm-hmm. And then the other place we're going to go to the Caribbean, Costa Rica is following.
Nice. Okay, we're all off to Costa Rica. Excellent. Okay. You're not just going to talk about tax. You're going to talk about beaches and tourism, aren't you?
Well, that's certainly what the appeal is. So they're trying to get those people that aren't tied down, that can work anywhere, and they're introducing a digital nomad visa, like a lot of other countries have done, Croatia, Portugal, a lot of the sunny locations that are just wanting to get people to work there, infuse some money into the economy, and to do that, they're offering, hey, come work here, we won't tax you. You know, we're not going to assess VAT on your computer equipment, and as long as you can prove that you have a stable job, and we'll give you this visa and come work and live in Costa Rica remotely. Of course, that's pretty attractive to the employee, but my warning is always make sure, for the employers out there, make sure you know where your employees are working, because permanent establishment is always kind of the bugaboo about letting your employees work wherever they want. So that just something that needs to go into the decision making before letting your employees spread out across the globe.
Okay, now I've got a really important question for you, Jeremy, because people have asked this. Okay, were you ever a beauty queen?
No, only in my dreams. No, and no rugby either. Not even on Xbox. So it wasn't me.
Okay, so it's getting more and more sort of narrowed down as to who it might be. We'll bring our guests on. I'm just going to see whether in the comments there's any more comments about what's going on with PwC. Comment here. I wonder what the size of the additional investment CD&R are making to the business to make this truly best in class. The comment regarding them adding a tech bolt-on acquisition is very astute. And I think that was a comment here. Let's just see other comments that have come up. Makes you think their acquisition in the mobility area won't stop at PwC, because again, just going back to the comment, the PwC sale is a growth strategy. It's definitely an industry-defining transaction, allowing them to reimagine the whole mobility services offering globally. It'll be really interesting to see this unfold and evolve in our industry. And I mean, what else? Ellen Shipley. I wonder if Topia will be a takeover target. That would make sense. They have some good tech and bought Polaris a few years back. Who knows? I mean, it's just so exciting about what's going on in our industry. And as I said, I will try and get some people from PwC on the show as soon as we can to talk about what's going on. But it's very, very exciting. It is a real game changer for our industry. As I said, I would be very surprised if the other big four don't follow suit at some point. Someone made the comment that actually maybe it's the wrong way around. Maybe it's the audit division they should be hiving off. That's a fair comment, but I mean, that's not the way these firms seem to work. And I think their view that the big four seems to be that expat tax is not a core service, that the core service is audit and if you like, corporate tax consulting, but the personal tax side isn't. It also raises the question about what happens with other areas of personal tax. But anyway, we all speculate. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to say goodbye to Jeremy, and we are going to be bringing on our very, very special guest. So everybody, what I want you to do is put your hands together, hit the like button, hit the heart button, hit the applause button, and let's give up big time. We've got two really, really senior, impressive people coming from HSBC, and one of them is a rugby player, and one of them is a beauty queen, and we're going to find out which. So let's bring them on stage now. Christina, welcome to The View from the Top. It is so wonderful to have you here. And people have been obviously wondering, we've been having a bit of fun. We would like doing a fun fact. Cameron, okay, were you ever a beauty queen?
Sadly not, Brian. Can't say that I tick that box, but it's great to be here with you today.
And what about a professional rugby player?
Unfortunately not. I also can't tick that box. So, I have to defer to my esteemed colleague on both of those counts.
Christina and Sandra Clary got it right.
I was going to say, Sandra, well done. Well done. Thank you.
So that's Sandra. I'm voting for Christina as both the rugby player and the beauty queen. Wow. Kudos to you, Christina.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Brian. It was a while ago. I'm much older now, and I think my knees are a bit sore from all the rugby tackles I've had. But yeah, really proud for both.
Well impressed. So anyway, let's just find out a bit about you guys before we get talking about the survey. I mean, you've both been with HSBC quite, a good few years. I'll start with you, if I may, Cameron. Okay. I mean, I know you're both based in Jersey, which for those people who don't know is in the Channel Islands, but I'm not hearing a Jersey accent from you, Cameron. I'm hearing something a bit further away. So tell me about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Originally from Australia. Thankfully, he didn't make a choice and try to choose New Zealand or South African. But no, originally from Australia. I've been with the group for an extended period of time, over 20 years. This is the 5th market I've worked in. So having worked in the UK, in our offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, and now in Jersey. So been very lucky to live the life as an expat working with HSBC.
Okay, so you've been an expat yourself, so you get the pain and the pleasure of expat life and doing a move. And Christina, tell us a bit about yourself. Again, I'm not hearing a Jersey accent there.
No, I've got a very muted New York accent. So I'm originally from New York, but I haven't lived there for almost 20 years, which is kind of crazy. Also, like Cam, have been across the world, lived in 7 different markets, and myself know the joys and also sometimes the challenges, right, of being an expat abroad. And I think, my time with HSBC over the last 13 years has been really awesome, and really leaning into what we could do for our customers, making it easier, and having that firsthand experience, I think really just helps bring it to life.
Okay, and tell us a bit about this survey. I know it's been going 14 years, but tell us a bit about how you do it and when you did it, and a bit about, the size and the demographics of it, so people get an idea. I know it's a very, very impressive, detailed, extensive survey.
Yeah, I mean, so the survey, as you said, Brian, is in its 14th year. It's an in-depth global survey. We went out and have had respondents from over 20,000. So it's our biggest response rate we've had previously. Actually, we had responses from people in over 143 different territories and markets.
Wow.
Through an online questionnaire between March and May of this year. Importantly, we need 100 respondents per location to be able to actually qualify. And again, we've ended up with our largest number of locations, with 46 locations in this year's survey. So, it's had the biggest reach and the biggest number of respondents, as well as the most territories and markets this year. So it's fantastic to see that traction and see the growth of the survey.
Okay, and to the audience, if you've got questions for Cameron or Christina, on the survey, on any questions about expat experience, or the Expat Explorer survey, then fire those questions into the comments box, and we'll take them as we come in. So I mean, just talking a little bit about it, then I looked on the front page. Let's put it up here. If you want to see the survey, you can download it from expat.hsbc.com/expat-explorer. So that's where it is, and I suspect, or I hope, somebody's going to put that in the comments box too, so that you can see it, and you get a hyperlink in the comments box too. But I mean, I've looked at this survey. I've looked at the survey in previous years. I've looked at this survey. It is an awesome survey that's out there. So tell me, this year, when was it done? When did they actually do it? I mean, were we in the middle of the pandemic at the time, or?
Yeah, so the survey was done between March and May earlier this year, and then it took us just a few months to kind of get the summation of those surveys together. I think what's really compelling, Brian, about what the survey's done is it's really shown us the global confidence that expats have to live and work abroad. I think everyone facing into the pandemic might have thought, coming out of it or coming into this new normal, that sentiment might have diminished, and expats are saying exactly the opposite. In fact, 2/3 of expats feel optimistic about the year ahead, despite the last 18 months. And a key reason of really driving that is their hope to live normally again. Now, we don't know what normally means. Everyone will have a different definition of that. But I think really just that hope and optimism for the future really came in. We also saw about 6 out of 10 expats feeling really positive because of the quality of life that they've been able to enjoy. And actually over 2/3 said their quality of life was better abroad than at home. So that positivity is really coming out in the survey overall. We've also, I mean, anyone who goes to look at it, this is a massive piece of work, right? So you're going to see a whole bunch of trends and themes in terms of different countries which are going to be listed. We do have our top high flyers, so those that have ranked amongst all different parameters, as being kind of the top most stable places to live and work, being Switzerland, Australia, and Jersey. But actually, there are a number of other key factors that are actually driving some of those different rankings. And I think it'd be really interesting for the audience, maybe for us to go into some of that detail here.
Yeah, I'd love to. So what you said there is that, I think you said the top 3 countries, here's one I prepared earlier, were Switzerland, Australia, and is that right, New Zealand, or did you say?
Yeah, so New Zealand is the third. I kind of expanded it out to kind of give you a little bit of flavor across those top 10.
Okay, so so give me a bit of a background on that. Do we have any reason why those countries, perform particularly well, or I suppose we don't necessarily know the reason, it's just they do, or was any drill down on that?
Yeah, so well, let me talk to you about what we actually asked, because I think that helps to give a little bit of a flavor of why people maybe have chosen the answers that they have. So we've asked questions across 3 different sections: living, aspiring, and future outlook. In living, we asked about quality of life in the host country, especially compared to your time back home. We asked about the degree to which your community is open and welcoming, right, in that living section. And, a lot of this will be about your connection, your well-being, your, society, local culture, how easy is it to settle in? That's all within that living section. There's a second section, which is around aspiring. Now, aspiring is around, how people really feel they can advance in the different markets abroad. So, the economy that they're settling into, opportunities for career progression. We ask questions like, do you think living in your host country is going to help you with your career? Or based on your experience, what does your host country offer that can really benefit expats? So we're kind of trying to get into the depth of what does it mean to really build a successful career abroad. And then the final one, which is around future outlook, is, how optimistic or pessimistic are you about living in your host country for the next 12 months, or why do you feel optimistic about living in your host country for the next 12 months? And actually all of the scores across all of these are then balanced together to be able to get that ranking, those kind of top 10 rankings overall. But if you kind of focus in on some of them, it can give you a little bit more of a flavor of what it really means. So
well, why don't we do that? Yeah. So
yeah.
Which one should we focus in on? Should we focus in on living first and get?
Yeah, let's do that. And I'll let Cam have a word in. I need to say I talk forever, so Cam, you need to nudge me off.
Yeah, you got to butt in. You got to butt in. Be careful, the rugby player.
So yeah, exactly. Tackling off.
Be careful.
I mean, so the first thing I would say, so in terms of the kind of best countries to live, we really looked at Mediterranean countries ranked really high as top places to move for what we would call a better quality of life. And actually Spain ranked the highest, followed by Cyprus and then Portugal. And we then balanced this with the question of, okay, what is it that people are really finding in some of these Mediterranean countries? And we don't know exactly, because obviously this is all based on individuals ranking how they're feeling individually. So it's going to be individual sentiment driven. But what we do know is that, expats' social lives made a little bit of an indent. So, where you are right now, Brian, you mentioned you're in Spain at the moment. People said it was really easy for them to meet new friends or to go out more at places like cinemas, bars, restaurants. So that social connection was really there.
And loving it, absolutely loving it.
Well, there you go. And I think that really matters, right, to expats in terms of where they live. And we definitely saw, that expats were also just actually getting out more. They were still able to get exercise and to kind of get out in nature, even despite the pandemic, and that impacted their quality of life overall.
Okay, we had a couple of comments coming in, so I might just take those for a moment. Had one from Yvonne. Are there any trends on dual career? Is that something that you track as you go through this?
So we don't really track careers as a specific trend. We do look a little bit at those that are employed versus those that might be working independently. So kind of owning their own business, and that was definitely something that kind of came out. And what we did also see was that people were still wanting to go abroad for work, right? Their confidence to actually do that was really high, and they were looking forward to doing it more and actually much quicker than I think we would have expected. So within the next 12 months, 2 and 3 stating, I want to get abroad because I'm going to have a better quality of life there than back home. So we don't have the view on individual work, dual working from a partner perspective. But I can tell you personally, I mean, both myself and my partner both work. I think it is always a challenge within that space. And one of the things, we as HSBC Expat are constantly trying to do is trying to support not only the principal person who's going, but actually whoever's joining them on that journey, because it's really important that you're making it as simple as possible, right? This is nothing about the survey itself, but I think just how we really lean in to be able to help and support expats when they do go abroad.
Okay. And Cameron, can I take any comments from you on that?
No, I mean, I think Christina's covered all of that very well, Brian. I think we do try and see what key insights we can pull out from the survey. We are continuing to look and this year again we changed our question set to dive into some of these additional areas that we're talking about today to give us more insights into that expat experience. So I think it's a great question and one that we can take away thinking about. How could we weave that into gaining even more insight as we look at the survey for our 15th year.
Okay, and an interesting question here, which I'll address to you, Cameron, from Ellen Shipley. And Ellen says this, is any major surprises in the survey? We'll have a look after the show, but we're interested to hear your view.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So I think there's probably 2 areas. I think one that surprised us is in the questions that we asked, we were deliberately trying to shape them around impacts post-pandemic, and whilst we didn't focus on that as a specific area, actually the optimism that came out from expats was, I think, a little bit of a surprise. There's been a lot of conversation and discussion around people seeing the pandemic and being impacted and looking at that as an opportunity to return home, and actually what we found is that 80% of our respondents actually said that they expected to live in their host country for at least the next year, with only 7% planning to move. And I think that's sort of contrary to some of the conversations people have been having and things that people have been hearing and things that have been in the press. I think, when we look at the rankings, I think one of the other surprising elements for us was the elevation of our Channel Islands into the top 10, where we saw Jersey, Guernsey and the Isle of Man all rank within the top 10, and we believe that's largely driven by the stability of the islands throughout the pandemic, and again goes to the points that Christina talked about earlier, the quality of life and the way that people are feeling about the way in which they've been able to continue with their life and engage with the country that they're living in.
So, I mean, do you think it's better then that in countries where people can acclimatise and localize, do you think they get a better expat experience than countries where maybe they're more sort of sheltered and they can't acclimatise so well with the local population, or do you think that doesn't necessarily make a difference?
I don't think we've seen anything that says that necessarily makes a difference. I think, to be honest, the underlying theme that we've seen coming through is that actually host communities, so 2 in 5 people believe the host communities have become more supportive during the pandemic. And I think that is a great recognition of the reasons why expats travel, and myself and Christina included, an opportunity to go and live and work in another country, and despite being an expat and being in a new market, actually the supportive nature of those countries people are living in is really positive to see. And I think that helps the conversation. I think, again, it relies on individuals to go outside of their comfort zone a little bit and engage with the community that they're working in. But it's positive to see that actually those that are doing that, those that are responding to our survey, are saying that actually they're finding that they're getting that community support from where they're living.
Yeah, I saw, I'll come back to you in a moment, Christina, but just one last comment, question to Cameron. I saw on your website with the survey a very, very interesting quote here. This was actually from you, Cameron. You said, moving to a new place is exciting. As you let go of the familiar, you can discover who you are. I thought that was actually quite deep and profound. So, I mean, it got me thinking, but do you want to tell me a bit about that? As you let go of the familiar, you can discover who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of us that live in a market, it's very easy to go with the flow and be comfortable in a role, be comfortable with the family and the environment and the friends, and live a very, very healthy, happy life. I think, for me, one of the things early stage of my career was a desire to go and embrace and find opportunities to be part of other communities, other cultures. And I think, that ability to step away from the world, and that is entirely friends, family, etc., really gives you the opportunity to reflect and spend some time understanding a little bit more about who you are, how you interact with people, redefine yourself and find new ways in which to engage with those communities that you're a part of, engage and identify new friendship groups, engage and identify new life experiences. And, if somebody had have told me when I was 18 that I would have spent the last 16 years living in 5 different markets, my children would have been born in Hong Kong, my wife is from Sri Lankan descent, and I've got friendship groups that I truly believe are global, I wouldn't have believed them. And I think that if I had have stayed with that familiarity of home, which I miss, right? It's within my heart, but I would never have been able to discover all of the various different pieces of me that have now rounded me into the individual that I am.
Yeah, Anna Monsalva made the point here. She said, the expat community becomes your family in the host location. It's great.
That's absolutely spot on, Brian. I think that is what happens, and I think many of us leave family behind, and I do have 2 young children. If we were at home, I'd drop them off at the grandparents and off I'd go. Here, and even in Jersey, it is then finding those friends, those associates within the expat community that you lean on for that support, that you lean on for those conversations. And I think, even more so recently with the inability to travel, people have had to rely on that community that they have, that expat community and local community, to help support them through what has been challenging times.
Okay, and Christina, I mean, we've talked about the various themes, we've talked about living. I'd like to talk a little bit about aspirations. I think you mean about that, career aspirations and and personal aspirations in the new location. Do you want to tell us a bit about some of the findings that came out, under the heading of aspirations?
Could I actually move to the future outlook, Brian, just because I'm cognizant of time and I know we're going to want to take some more of these questions here. And I think this is probably one of the most compelling parts of what the survey's done. So I know we've shared some of the stats, but I'll just share them again because I think it's really important. So 80% of expats that are living in their host country have said, I'm going to stay put here where I am, at least for the next year. Only 7% planning to move, which Cam has mentioned. In places, the most optimistic place was Taiwan. And that was closely followed by Australia, New Zealand, and then also Vietnam, all over kind of 80%. So all in those high rankings, 4 to 5 people saying that that's what they're feeling.
So Taiwan, Australia,
Australia, New Zealand, and then Vietnam.
Wow.
And actually, I mean, we've just put this is really breaking news because we literally just dropped everything. Dropped out the survey results yesterday, and it was the Vietnamese press picked it up because they thought actually this is quite exciting, right, for Vietnam. So there's been coverage, in over 90 different news outlets just in the last 24 hours alone. But Vietnam featured it as one of those. We also found, that places like Ireland and New Zealand found it to be one of the most supportive the people that were living in Ireland and New Zealand said that it was one of the most supportive countries to live in. And this goes to that statement that Cam was making, just around how people are able to settle in quickly. So I think there's really, people are really feeling optimistic. And when we ask them the question, what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months? They're really wanting to get out and know the local area. We had about almost half saying they're getting ready to travel again, and another almost half saying they really wanted to understand and explore the local culture. So really not only getting boots on the ground out of the place that they're living, but actually exploring it on the ground itself, which, I think, I can attest to that. I just moved to Jersey in the middle of the pandemic in January of this year. And, having done that, and kind of being in and now having the opportunity to get out, it's great to kind of get out and about, really learn the local community, as well as getting on a plane and getting somewhere else as well.
I must admit, I'm a bit surprised that Australia and New Zealand have done so well, given how harsh their lockdown was, and that, people, especially in somewhere like Melbourne, have been, virtually house prisoners for months. But obviously, they still love it, and they're still so optimistic about the future. It's just so great, because there's so many bad news stories out there about how miserable the last year has been. And you were doing this at a time when the pandemic was raging, a lot more, than it is now, thank God. But nonetheless, you were getting this real positivity, which I'm guessing might be even more so now as the pandemic fades a little bit more into memory. But that's just incredible. There's a quote actually that I found from you, Christina, on the website, and you said this: all corners of the world have been affected by the pandemic, from local communities to professional careers, but it's encouraging to hear how many expats have a positive outlook for the future. So that's probably one of the key takeaways, is it, from this survey?
Yeah, well, 100%. I think, all of us on this call and kind of tuning in are either expats ourselves or in the expat business, right? And we want to know that there's still an opportunity here, for us to be able to really lean in and help people that have that international mindset, want to connect, and travel abroad. And I think what's really encouraging is people are still in that mindset. They're wanting that experience, they're wanting that opportunity. And I think it's now up to us to really open up that world of opportunity for them. Okay.
And I suppose we ought to talk a little bit about finance. You are a bank after all, so I'm guessing that, finance comes in there somewhere. And there's one statistic I saw in terms of, we're talking about aspirations, ambitions, but in terms of disposable income. And I think I've just pulled it up here, but I think it said 63% have seen their disposable income rise. So, tell me about the financial side of being an expat and what you found.
So I'll maybe answer the question more broadly, just in terms of kind of what we're seeing, I think, across finance more broadly, both domestically and internationally, which is people who have had the benefit of it being able to retain their jobs. And we know that hasn't been everybody, but those who have are saving more. They are being kind of more credit conscientious, right? So there's definitely a view to kind of be able to pay down credit, budget more. And we're seeing people actually, I guess, really utilize those tools, right? With which, as a bank, we're really encouraged to see that financial health and that best practice kind of really come out from customers all across different markets. So we're definitely seeing that. I think, for expats, being still has meant that they're not necessarily having as much expenditure. Now, that hasn't come out specifically in the survey, but I think we can all surmise that's what happens, right? A lot of our funds, just speaking personally, will go to visiting family back home, visiting friends potentially abroad, holidays and vacations. All of that is now being saved. So there is an opportunity, I think, to look at how we can really help those customers make that money work for them. Here at HSBC, we've just launched a international investment center, which enables customers to really manage their funds in investments, online, simply and easily, for them to be able to do exactly that, put some of that extra cash to work for them instead of, the holiday they might have been taking in 2020 or 2021.
Okay, we've got a couple of comments coming in and questions. I'll just put them up. Merrily says, growing up as part of an expat family, we are still benefiting from lifetime friendships And over the years, working with expat families myself, they all talk about their lifetime friends they made both in their expat community and as well as the special bonds with local. Yeah, I mean, I call that living la vida local. But here's a question that I think that's more of a comment than a question. But here's a question I want to put up, and this is from Nick Bacon. Did the survey pick up any changing sentiment amongst expats in SGP, which I guess is Singapore? There's been comment in the media about how expats have come to feel less welcome in the local community in recent times. I agree with Brian, surprised about New Zealand, surely less attractive if not free to travel out of the country. Ditto Hong Kong, of course. So, I mean, are there any comments you can make specifically about Singapore and Hong Kong and any of those issues?
I mean, I think if I look at Singapore, yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the underlying elements within the survey, you know, when it talks about, you know, to the specific question, I think how welcoming Singapore is perceived to be. Yet we have seen, you know, and I can't comment on the underlying reasons why. All I can talk about is what our respondents are telling us, but it did reduce in rankings from number 11 in 2020 to number 44. So there is an element there where expats are feeling potentially that it is less welcoming. However, you know, a huge number of positive elements for disposable income. Singapore's moved up, ranking number 4. You know, which is a great move. I think, again, continuing to rank very highly as a destination favoured for building wealth. I think, you know, and quality of life, 3 and 4 expats in Singapore found the quality of life in Singapore better than their home location. So, you know, different factors are influenced every different year, Brian, as we see the results. But, you know, overwhelmingly some positive sentiments there. You know, even if you look at the future children, you know, 55% of expats in Singapore actually found the quality of education for the children much better than their home country. So I think, you know, across all of our markets, and when you drill into the various different detail, there are movements for each country as individuals and expats are impacted by various different pieces.
Okay, I think we've got to talk a bit about expat banking, because obviously that's the game that you guys are in. And I noticed again a statistic that I think 52% of people said their finances were complex. And obviously we're talking about expats here. Their finances were complex, but only 9% actually did anything about it and had help from a financial advisor. Can you just tell us a little bit about what's out there and how people can help? Because, you know, certainly when we look at it, you know, one of the biggest issues that seems to come up is opening a bank account. It seems to be a really tricky issue for a lot of people moving. And I know you guys are market leaders. So I don't know if you can say a bit about that.
I can. I think we both can, but I'll
go for it, Christina.
Yeah. So firstly, I would say, I mean, one of the biggest things that you need moving anywhere is a bank account, right? And it opens up so many things. It helps you to get a lease, you know, if you're going to be renting a place, or, you know, if you're buying a place, you know, it's where you're getting then your pay kind of paid into. I think one of the things that we're able to do as a global bank, and especially through HSBC Expat, is help people to arrive in a destination with the account already open, or, you know, and really just looking at, especially those who have relationships with us already, being able to establish that account firsthand. We also have, you know, currencies. We offer like savings accounts and 17 different currencies, you know, and that is growing over time. You know, and again, as I mentioned, a lot of what we are aiming to do is really kind of put things at people's fingertips. And so, you know, making interactions available digitally so they can really manage their life on the go. A lot of what we commit, I think, to our expat community is not just having the digital experience, but then, as you've just mentioned, that financial advisor, having somebody, a person you can call up, have a conversation with, talk to about your complex finance needs, and have them help you to achieve those goals. And, you know, if I think about how a number of other organizations are trying to step into the space, it's not always cost effective to do that. But for us, we really think it's value add, right? For people who are across the world, really being able to speak to somebody. So having that, you know, relationship manager, the core of the proposition that we offer, plus the digital capabilities, really makes it really simple.
Okay, and just to say, the codes are up on the bottom of the screen. So for those of you who want your codes from ERC for GMS and CRP, or indeed, and many thanks to Rocket Mortgage who get us the HRCI and the SHRM codes, they're up there too. So those are the codes for anybody who needs those CPD codes. And a message here from Louisa saying you can view the country and region guides. And I must say that HSBC does some amazing country and region guides, and they are available on their website there. And that is the link to get that. So lots of comments coming in. Other comments coming in. That just says LinkedIn user. Sometimes it will say on LinkedIn who it is, but it just doesn't come up on my screen. I think it's to do with people's privacy settings. But HSBC Expat is tremendous and helped me bank security whilst living abroad. There you go. Happy customer out there. I can't see who it is, but I expect on LinkedIn you can. And other comment coming in here for Kimberly. We have an expat in Singapore. They've really been in lockdown during the whole pandemic, which limits their ability to interact with the local community. Yeah, I mean, it's staggering, isn't it? How how confident people are, despite the fact we've been going through these awful times.
Yeah, and I think, Brian, just on that point, I think, that's where we looked, and Christina touched on it earlier, the top 5 goals in the next 12 months, which is one of the questions we've asked, are getting to know the local area, traveling, understanding and exploring the local culture, making new friends and going out more. Those are our top 5. So that probably talks to that in a little way, where, we know that expats who have and local communities haven't been able to interact as much as they would like. But, positively, our respondents are telling us that is actually top of their list.
Absolutely. So to sum up, actually, good comment coming up here, LinkedIn user, having been an expat in 5 regions, it's wonderful to hear that there is still the business interest in having expat assignments. Nothing can compare to the personal expat experience. I mean, we talk about virtual assignments, but as you say, nothing gets the world experience, not just for the expat, but for the expat's family and their children. I know you're talking about, your kids being born in Hong Kong, Cameron, but nothing actually beats being an expat. And sometimes maybe we just need to reflect on actually how great our world is. We all work in mobility, and what a great world. Anyway, we're coming towards the end of time, but are there any sort of final comments that you'd like to make, Christina or Cameron, on the survey and some of the findings from it?
No, I don't think so, Brian. I think just lastly, a huge thank you from HSBC Expat for having us on the show and giving us the opportunity to share the results of our Expat Explorer survey. We've shared the link in there. Please go on and have a look. They're a huge. It's very difficult for us in a short period of time to do the survey true justice. There are a huge amount of insights in there. We have our expat country guide, so I would encourage you, please go on there and have a look. And if you have any follow-up questions, please do feel free to reach out to any of us here at HSBC Expat at any time for support.
Okay. And Christina, I mean, you've been an expat, well, you've both been expats, but you're an expat in Jersey. I mean, are you as optimistic about the future as everybody else? Are you in the four?
I would say I'm probably more optimistic than most, because I moved here during the pandemic. I didn't even wait, right, Brian? So I'm really seeing the world open up, and I'm really seeing an increase in confidence. And that for me is just really encouraging. It's encouraging personally, but also in a professional context, really just seeing that appetite grow for being and living abroad. And I would just echo Cam. I mean, thanks so much for having us. Thank you for the fun question. And also to Sandra, if she's still on, for thinking that a woman could be a rugby player and a beauty queen. Really love that. And really hoping that we could help as many people as possible, either through their companies or through their clients, in terms of helping them make that transition abroad even better and smoother.
Okay, so I'll bring on Julia and Jeremy, and the gang is back. We've done our hour. It's been a great show. Everyone has really, really enjoyed it. The insights from the survey they are insightful. I suppose insight should be insightful. So thank you very much. All that remains is say goodbye to you guys, goodbye to our audience, and we will be back this time next week with the latest edition. So thank you all very much. And again, the positive comments are coming in. So take care, everybody. And if we get any more news on anything else, any more breaking news, especially on what's going on in the tax side of the industry, we'll also come back. So take care, everybody, and goodbye.